As you can see from the information we are given, we've got closing stock amounting to 235. Of this 235, obviously we need more information. Obviously, all of this will form part of that 235. The last purchase will form part of your closing stock. And some of this will form part of your closing stock. But I don't know yet. I haven't read additional information yet. Now, according to this additional information, we've got coverage on purchases, and they said it's 8 Rand per tub to be delivered to the store. And when it comes to returns, they said 30 damaged tubs from January 2022 purchases were returned to the supplier. The supplier reversed the total cost price paid, excluding coverage on purchases. That means those tubs that were returned will be from your January purchases, which is this one here. So you're going to take 180 minus 30. Whatever is left will form part of your closing stock. Okay. So we'll have 150. 150 will come from this January sales. And then you can take 235 minus 150. I think it will give you 85. That 85 will come from your February purchases. So they'll cost 460. Please don't forget to multiply by the coverage, which is 80 Rand per tub. Basically, if we have 85 tubs, you're going to multiply it by 460 plus 85 times 8, which is the coverage. Okay. Moving right along. We also told that 925 units were sold. I don't know what other question we are going to have here, but I'll just read it as it is. And they gave us cost of sales amounting to 404,140. This is after all adjustments were taken into account. Let's go to the first question. The first question requires us to calculate the value of closing stock on the 28th of February using specific identification method. They've already calculated the King model, which is 666,000. We need to calculate the Paolo model. Now, according to the Paolo model, we needed to find out how many units are part of our closing stock. Firstly, I will say units available for sale will be your opening, which is 62, plus your purchases, which is 250, your minus 2 that were returned, and that will give you 330. That 310 represents units available to be sold. Units available to be sold. And where do I get that? I'm simply getting it from this table over here. We're told that at the beginning of this period, we had 62 units, we purchased 250 and we returned 2. And obviously units available will be 310. You understand where I got the 310 from. And then you will simply determine the units that were sold, which is 245. So units available for sale minus units sold will give us the number of units that made it on hand, which is 65 units. And the cost price of this unit was given to us, which was 5,200. So you just take 65 units, multiply by 5,200, it will give you the closing stock of your Paolo model, which is 338,000. Okay. With Gamma, we were given the number of units that were on hand, which were 18. However, we didn't have the cost price. So, however, for us to be able to calculate the cost price, we were given selling price per unit. We were also given the markup. So I'm simply going to use those two to calculate the cost price per unit. I will start with the number of units on hand, which is 18. The cost price per unit will be that 9,600 times 100 divided by 160. You multiply by what you want to divide by what you have. Now that 9,600 was the selling price, which includes the markup. That is why I'm dividing by 160. And that will give us 6,000 per unit. To determine the value of your closing stock, you just take the number of units on hand multiplied by the cost price per unit, and that will give you the value of your closing stock. According to this, your closing stock will be 666,000 plus 338,000 plus 108,000, and that will give us 1,112,000, and that will be the value of your closing stock according to specific identification stock method. Okay, now explain two different examples of how the division of duties could prevent an incident such as this from occurring again in the future. This relates to the fact that 40 bicycles were stolen, all right? Now, when we talk about division of duties, what are we referring to? So you allocate each of the following tasks to different employees, whereby one person acts as a check for the other. So you will actually make sure that these parts are basically separated. Each person must be ordering, the other one must be receiving stock. Okay, the other one must be in dispatch to sales, and the other one must be recording sales. If one must follow up on documentation and the other one must authorize, okay, and one must do physical stock count and reconcile to stock records. And it mustn't be the same person that ordered or received or was involved in dispatching, and the other one mustn't be the one that was authorized. Okay, so all of these activities must be done by different people so that they can act as people that check the other. All right. Now, we need to inspect all physical stock leaving the premises against documentation. And as I've said, you need to look at your cameras. Before a person can take the bicycle out, you need to check if proper documentation, they have proper documentation, and if that documentation was authorized. All right. I think I explained this earlier on in the previous video when I explained as I was answering the questions before I actually answered the actual question. All right. Now we need control access to storage facilities. So not just everyone or anyone must access the storage facility. Only authorized personnel must be able to do so. Okay, provide 2 points that show that Milo and his customers are happy with the quality of Gamma bikes. I did specify this. I did talk about this earlier on in the previous video. So we noted that there were no returns, okay, especially from King from Palo. I think those were returns from Palo, and there were no returns to suppliers for King, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. And that indicates only two. That indicates good quality of the product. Okay, high markup of 60%. Normally, people will set a lower markup, but the fact that they are setting a higher markup, it means they trust their product. They trust that even if they sell it at a higher price, they will still sell. And it also indicates that customers are prepared to pay a higher price, appeals to a select market. Other products normally use a 50% markup. Higher sales revenue amounted to 2.323,2, and for Palo it was 1,911,000. For King it was 1,930,500. Those are big numbers, okay? And obviously, which is 412 more than Palo, and we have 932,500 more than King. And this shows you the fact that their sales revenue amounts to 2 million. All right, it shows you that these people actually have the highest sales, which is good. Okay. And that indicates the good quality of their product. Lowest closing stock value was 108 and 18 units on hand, or 7% of available stock, or 242 of 260 units were sold, or 93% of available stock was sold. 93 is a distinction plus. Okay, so that tells you that the fact that they have the low value of your closing stock, it means most of these products were sold, and a very few of them were returned by the customers. That shows the customer satisfaction when it comes to the quality that Milo has to provide, the quality of products that Milo is providing. And we also have a high turnover rate. You all know how to calculate turnover rate. You can quickly calculate it. And the fact that we have it's 13 times or 27 days 13 times. Most businesses struggle to actually meet this in 27, which is 27. After every 27 days, they're selling. That will prevent stock from becoming obsolete, damaged, stolen, or overtaken by newer models entering the market. Cash not tied up in stock, which is good. Note that the higher value of your closing stock means that your money is in the warehouse and it's not earning interest and you are losing. We call that opportunity cost. You could be earning a higher amount if you invested that money somewhere else, but you took it and invested in your trading stock, which is sitting there not earning interest. We needed to calculate the value of closing stock on the 28th of February using first in, first out valuation. And now we are dealing with powdered energy drinks. I did talk about this earlier on as well. Please note that the value of our closing stock was 235, and I did specify we will look at the closing stock. Part of the closing stock or number of units that will make it to the closing stock will be the last or the latest purchase, which was in January, and that amounted to 150 units. So to calculate the cost price, you'll take 150 units multiplied by the cost and take 150 units multiplied by carriage on purchases, which is transportation cost. That will give you the value of those units, which is 72,450. Now, what is 235 minus 150? It'll give you 85. 85 units will come from November, which is the second last purchase. Second last purchase. You multiply that by the cost price, which was 460. Those units cost 460. And transportation is still the same, which is 8. 85 times 8 will give you the total cost of these bicycles, and that will be 39,780. Add all of these up, they will give you the value of your closing stock, which is 112,200, which is not that much considering the revenue that they've made, which amounts to millions. This shows you that, well, actually, this is a different question. Sorry. This is a different question. I'm thinking about bicycles now. And right now I'm doing powered energy drinks. And when it comes to powered energy drinks, that is actually very, very concerning. 235 units that are part of your closing stock. I just want to go back to the table and see exactly how many units were purchased. We purchased 1,060 units, and we are left with 235. It's not that much, but let me just calculate the percentage of that. Percentage of our purchases that made it to closing stock. Okay, it'll be 235 divided by 1,060. How much percentage will that give us out of the purchases? How many didn't we sell? It's 1,060. So we are going to take 235 divided by 1,060. That gives us 22%. So 22% of our purchases, we do not sell them, meaning that we're selling 80% or 78% of our purchases. It's not that bad, as a matter of fact. It is not that bad, but it will become bad if the stock that we have, most of it, must be written off due to the fact that, remember, when it comes to powdered energy drinks, they specify that they need to be on hand for 66 days. And already this is concerning because if we are given 66 days, it means that any of these units, which is 85, by the way, any of these units must be written off. Of that 235, 85 units must be written off as it's a loss, all right? And we cannot sell those to customers because selling expired energy drinks, I think that is poisonous, okay? That's what my common sense tells me, that it is very, very poisonous. That's why I wouldn't even try to sell them, okay? Now, for me to be able to calculate my closing stock, this is all I had to do. First in, first out. Last in, closing stock. Last in, closing stock. Second last, if the last in, all of it made it to closing stock, the remaining must come from the second last. If the second last, all of it made it to the trading to the closing stock, then we look at the third last. Okay, here we had to stop at the November purchases because we only had 85 units that made it to the closing stock. Okay. Now, calculate the stock holding period. We spoke about this in days, so we have to multiply by 3 to 365 instead of 12, which is in months. Now they just said to use the closing stock figure. So they don't want us to use the average. The closing stock figure comes from 2.2.4, which is it was 112,200 and something. Cost of sales was 404, 140, if I'm not mistaken. And or 230, that's what it is. And this will simply give us the stock holding period, which is 101.4. This is concerning because they said stock holding period for last year was 58 days. And now it's 101.4 days. So stock holding period increased, meaning that more of our stock will be tied up in, more of our money will be tied up in trading stock, which is not earning any interest. We are losing on investment opportunities. That's fact. Oh, I just spoke about this. Now, stock holding period increased from 58 days to 101.4 days, and this is not good for the business as it means that the product is not selling or stock is selling at a slower rate than last year, or cash is tied up in stock. Working capital may have liquidity. We may have liquidity issues because we don't have enough working capital here. Okay, working capital is normally from your current assets, all right? Your current assets needs to generate enough money so that we can pay our current liabilities for us to get net working capital. And the fact that we don't have enough cash due to the fact that most of our stock is tied up in closing. I mean, most of our money is tied up in stock, which is not any interest, and that will make it difficult for us to pay our current liabilities, which will result in liquidity issues. I hope that makes sense. This is a health product with a limited shelf life, perishable, and will end up being disposed or wasted. So they needed to sell this in essence. Milo has noticed that some of the stock of energy drinks has exceeded shelf life. Identify the value of stock that Milo is referring to. Well, it's the November closing stock. Okay, I will highlight it here. The problem is right here because we're gonna have it in December, January, February, the entire month of February. That is more than 66 days. Okay, so those units here are very concerning, and I think those are units we cannot sell at all. This is still on hand, and it was purchased more than 66 days ago, which exceeds the number of shelf life that this product has, the number of days that this product has. Shelf life, obviously, it's 66 days, and this is more than 3 months, which is way more than 66 days. It's actually 3 months, which is way more than 66 days. Milo wants to sell outdated stock at half cost. What advice would you offer him about this proposal? I specified that what he's trying to do is very, very dangerous. Okay. I spoke about Prime. Energy drinks already are dangerous. This is a powder, I understand that, but it's equally as dangerous as energy drink. I think they have the highest levels of caffeine, which can cause your heart complications and stuff. All right. So this is actually bad. So you can't even sell it. And what he's trying to do is bad. You cannot sell this. You need to consider the well-being or reaction of customers before making such a proposal. The business must absorb or write off these products as a loss or destroy or dispose the outdated products and consider the environmental issues when you dispose this. Some businesses I know that when they dispose, especially chemical companies, when they dispose some of their waste, they dispose it into the river, which makes things worse, right? You need to consider the environment. I think that has been the issue around the Val Dam. And it's concerning. It's very, very concerning because Val Dam was considered to be the most polluted dam. And I can think of companies. I think there are mines around Val Dam. I can think of Sasol next to Val Dam. If any of those companies are actually disposing their waste into the dam, they're causing harm into the environment. All right. I'm not saying that they do, I'm saying if they did, that's way too dangerous. Consider the long-term consequences of unethical or illegal actions and note that if customers get sick, they have something they call I forgot it, where customers can come together and start suing the company. And that could result in a lot of losses for the company if they lose the case and if they were found that they were guilty of the offense and the reason why some of their customers got sick. All right. We call it class action. We call it class action. And when a company has that, it also ruins the reputation of the company, which could result in a drop of future sales. They could lose their trading license. And as I've said, they can face criminal charges for malpractice. Okay. I think this is it when it comes to inventory. I hope that made sense. As people from Pretoria will say, I hope di ring a bell. Di ring a bell. I wonder what punyeta means. I hope it's not a swear word. You know, Pretoria language is different. Like South Africa has 11 languages. Pretoria has its own languages. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really thank you, Pretoria people, for supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. I still get more views from Pretoria, and the next one will be, I think, second position is Cape Town, and then Johannesburg and Durban. I really appreciate it, guys. Please keep on watching the videos. Do not forget to subscribe, to like the videos as well. Thank you so much. All right, please check out the next video. For now, kgotso.